Hey artists, want to do some really relaxing doodle drawing today? Now you have the option to either go with pencil first or you can go straight with pen. For time's sake, I'm just going to go straight with pen. Now you might have done something similar to this before, but this time we're going to be doing this on a little bit larger scale. You'll notice that I am just kind of making random dots around the page. Now, very important, if you're using one of these pens, you are using this very lightly. You are not mashing down or using much pressure with this. If I do notice you using a lot of pressure or mashing down on this pen, I will trade it out for an older pen because we need to keep these pens good for a long time. Now, what I'm doing is I'm allowing my lines to go from one dot to the next. Now, notice every time I'm going with my line, it's coming back to a dot. So each line starts with a dot and ends with a dot. Another thing is that my lines are not crisscrossing over each other. Now they might merge together near one of those dots, but again, they are not crisscrossing over each other. I just added a little dot right there. Is that okay? Of course. Now you might have to kind of bend your lines all sorts of funky ways to make sure that they don't overlap or crisscross, but that's okay. The more you kind of bend them and make them merge, the cooler it looks, I think. Now I call this doodle drawing. It's kind of like Zentangle though. Once you kind of get on a roll with it, it is very relaxing and almost therapeutic. Now some of my lines have gotten a little shaky and wibbly wobbly, and I kind of like that. Now rather than carrying on out there, I just want to show you how you might want to start filling in your space. Now I've kind of closed up or finished up this space, so I'm going to work on all the space that's in between now. And so my lines are going to, again, start and stop at a dot. Each line is going to start and stop at a little dot. I'm not crisscrossing or overlapping, and I'm kind of having to bend my lines all which way, and that's okay. Now my lines are merging a lot near the dots, and they might go on top of other lines, but again, they're not crisscrossing. What that's doing is almost creating kind of like a little shadow effect. And even right here, I might bring this line, go out, and then again, it comes back to that dot. And when I'm doing that, almost looks like this is like a little garlic clove or a flower petal or onion kind of getting. Now, if you want, you could leave those negative spaces just white or blank, or you could get a little Sharpie marker, or your pen technically, and kind of fill in some of those little negative spaces. You can see what a difference that makes. Now, one last option, you've already created kind of the illusion of something kind of receding back towards the dots just by way of merging those lines together and creating almost a shadow. You can even bump that up a little bit more by adding a little bit of value with your pencil. And you'll be doing a lot of value this year with me. But notice my hand is back on that pencil just a little bit, and I'm just kind of lightly doing some little strokes near those little dots, and that's just adding a little bit more to that value. This is completely optional. You might decide you definitely don't want to do this, or you might decide to give it a try. The cool thing about doing this lightly with the pencil is if you don't like it, you just erase it. And right here I'm getting kind of under there a little bit, so it really looks like that's creating a shadow right there. One other little doodle that I want to do with you just for fun, and again, you can do this with your pencil first if you would like, or you can go straight with a pen like I am. So I've created a little line. It's not a straight line, it's kind of a little wibbly wobbly, and I'm doing some little dots on this line. Now this is kind of the same idea or concept we started with right here, but we're applying it right here. So your lines are going to kind of go in between these dots. And notice that my line is going all the way from one side to the other. Now when I get up here, I might not bring my line all the way down to that dot, but I am bringing that little curved line back to that little curved shape before. So each edge is touching each other. And I might not have these go straight up. I might have these kind of bend and turn all different ways. For example, right here, I might kind of start to aim this one up to the left, just for fun. Now you could play with having all of your little lines kind of bump into each other, or you might play with kind of starting to add some space or leave some space in between your, I don't know what they are, little figures, little worms, caterpillars. I could leave it on the top side, or I could go ahead and start to add to the bottom if you want. Now you could play with, technically each time I've done it down here, I've brought that line all the way back to the dot. I wonder if that would look any different than what I did up top. Sometimes art is all about experimenting, testing, and discovering. Now see, that looks a little bit different each time I did my little wide U on this. I brought that line all the way back to the dots. And it almost looks a little bit more smooth on the edges there, and the edges also look a little bit heavier in value or a little bit more shaded. I think both look cool, but man, I'm almost more drawn to the bottom ones. Now, once again, you could leave this with black and white. You might even decide, what if you put some pattern in there? What if you colored alternating black and white with the little layers? That might look super cool. You could do that with a pen, you could do that with a Sharpie. You could even, fill in with a pencil if you want. So same thing I did over here, I could kind of bump up the value if I wanted with the pencil, or I could even just color the layers, kind of alternating with the pencil. One gray and one white, one gray and one white. And the edges, maybe I press down a little bit harder with that pencil. Looks pretty cool. Even maybe in the white areas, they give it a tiny little value. All right, guys, I'm gonna stop right there. I truly cannot wait to see what you do with these.